I think a referendum is an absolute lottery. It's almost impossible to predict because so many external factors can come to bear on it, much more than in elections. And it's so easy to manipulate by the various parties who can see political gain coming from it.
You can't foresee what will happen, and a lot of things can come in from outside.
A good referendum, I think, would have high participation, and we might get that or we might not. We would have some quite clear sense of what this was about if we were out and if we were in. And at the moment, I think people have got a clearish sense of what out is about, but not necessarily where it would take you. Not really much sense of what in's about, except there are quite a lot of people who think that, including the Prime Minister, so we should find out about it. And most of us would feel it had settled something for a bit.
To really influence people, you need to have very powerful language and optics and symbols. And I feel at the moment that feels a bit lacking. I think both campaigns are sort of trying to use quite traditional forms of campaigning.
When you question people through a referendum, you cannot make a strong difference between official information, wise arguments, rational arguments, and rumors or fantasies or just manipulation or lies that go viral on the web.
Given the British sensitivities towards European integration, I would expect arguments touching economic costs, uncertainty, immigration, national identity, national sovereignty, and renewed calls for Scottish independence to provide important mobilization ground for campaigners. And the way the campaigns are run, the extent to which campaigners can touch people's emotions will likely shape the UK's choice.
The political parties should learn from the experience of general elections that you need to knock on doors, you need to ask people for their votes, you need to bring the message down to the ground. So there will be not just an air war, but a ground war.
I think the biggest challenge for the Remain campaign is the EU itself. The fundamental nature of this organisation is that Jean-Claude Juncker will keep standing up and saying insulting things about British voters, that its mishandling of the Eurozone or the migration crisis or all sorts of other topics will continue to be an ongoing car crash which threatens the Remain campaign. That's why the referendum is happening as soon as they possibly can.
The Remain campaign has got to do more to just move away from lots of men in suits throwing statistics out and making everything look quite fearful. I think they have to tap into much more of a hopeful message and much more of a kind of future-looking message, not just what the EU has done for us, but what can the EU do for us in the future.
I think the biggest challenge for the Out campaign is that they don't know what they want afterwards.
The Leave campaign's challenge is that they haven't been able to articulate a clear view of what leaving means in terms of the UK's place in Europe and in the world.
In a way, the Brexit people have got more powerful emotive language. Sovereignty, control are emotive, powerful concepts.
One big strategic question for each side. The big strategic question for Remain is, do you need to make a positive case as well? And they will make a case of, is it worth the risk of leaving? Have you considered the risk? It's where they've started. It's where they'll end up. And the answer might be that they don't need a positive case, or they don't think they need one. I think, without making any positive case at all, you could win the referendum, 52-48, something like that, and effectively you'd have got a sort of not proven verdict from a hung jury that the other side didn't quite win the argument. But I don't think without a positive case you can do better than that.
At the basic level, the referendum is about winning the referendum. I don't think this referendum is going to solve anything at all. It's very hard to see a situation where either side will accept unconditionally or even with only limited conditions the result that comes through.
In reality, this is a decision about whether we control our own destiny. It's a decision about whether we control the money in our own pocket. It's a decision about whether we're going to be able to get the jobs that comes with trade with the rest of the world, not just with the EU.
You cannot possibly leave something as important as a referendum to the political parties. Civil society has to get involved.
People have to speak their mind openly, obviously, and we should not be afraid of that. But on the other hand, it's also important to listen to that and stay not just calm, but in the frame of democracy and say the truth to people, meaning that Europe is not the problem, but it's a solution.
The one thing I want to sort of disagree with, maybe, or just put the hopeful case, maybe this is going to be quite a good referendum. Maybe this referendum, and it isn't yet, but maybe this referendum is actually going to be quite good for democratic engagement in this country. And, you know, not many signs yet, but it's not too late. It will, in my view, increase people's knowledge and understanding of Britain's place in the European Union and what it means.
I don't think people vote out of gratitude. I think people often vote about what they think an institution is going to do for them in the future.
In the last analysis, it will be the campaign. And anything that we are thinking about here today probably will not be the defining character in that campaign.